Okay, we are recording. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for the UCEAP Scholarship webinar for fall programs. I will go into a little bit of detail about year-long awards as well, in case any of you are planning to extend to a year, but we do have independent year-long webinar recordings already. So if you check our YouTube account for UCEAP, you should be able to find older videos, including one from this term about year-long awards. So any photograph that you see within the presentation today is from a previous scholarship awardee. So that's always really exciting to try to name where they're studying and where they're from. And the webinar will be recorded. So if you are needing to leave at any point, then it will be recorded and a link will be sent to all of those who registered. So let's go ahead and get started. So my name is Bryn Lemon. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm the Assistant Director of Alumni Engagement and Scholarships at our system-wide office for UCEAP in Goleta, California. And you'll see my email addresses there below. So if you have any questions following the presentation, you're welcome to email me with those questions. So let me just quickly ensure that our captions are on. Excellent. Okay. So excellent, it is working. So I have been working for our program here in our system-wide office for about 3.5 years now. And prior to coming to this role, I was actually working in our office in Edinburgh. So I studied abroad in Scotland during my junior year at UC Santa Barbara. And I loved it so much that I moved back abroad and started working in our office there for an additional year. So I spent 2 years in Scotland and I spent 1 year in Chile after that. So I could learn Spanish and teach in a small English school. So if you have any questions about Scotland or Chile, they're definitely passionate areas of mine. I'd love to talk to you about them. So if you're considering where to study abroad, if you haven't yet narrowed down your focus, I would highly encourage you to consider those countries. But all of our programs are wonderful, and I'm excited to talk to you today about how to get access to scholarships to help promote your experience abroad. So let's look over our system-wide portfolio quickly. So we are, the system-wide office houses awards for all of the UC campuses. There are additional awards that you might find at your campus. So if you are at each individual campus does have their own awards. So I recommend checking with your international office, or some campuses might have a global office. I recommend checking there to see what other scholarships you could apply for your program. But within our office, the system-wide office, we offer the UCEAP Global Scholarship, which is our overarching award. So this is going to be the first application you submit in our system. Once you've submitted this application, then you will be considered for any additional named awards. So these are like our Olivia Chan Ship Award or our Theta Shapiro Award. These are selected internally, and they have specific criteria associated with them. So the Olivia Chan Ship Award, for example, is for students studying abroad in Italy, and the preference there is towards communication majors in Rome. So there are more specific scholarships that are donor funded, and those will be selected internally. So once you've applied to the Global Scholarship, you will be considered for those awards. Additionally, we offer some year-long scholarships. So those include the Dutton-Haver Scholarship, Paul Dutton-Haver Extension Scholarship, which is for students who are planning to extend from fall to spring. So if you go abroad for fall and you decide you really love the country you're in and you have the space in your academic calendar to extend, this is a really great scholarship to apply to, and I highly encourage you to look into it, and we'll talk about it in a bit. The Chris Borton Memorial Scholarship, which is also for year-long study. The Founders Prize in Entrepreneurship, which is actually a spring-specific award, but I'll just go over it in very brief detail today in case you do decide to extend and you're interested in spring. And finally, our newest scholarship, which is the UCEAP Videography Scholarship in memory of Albert G. Manassian. So that's an exciting opportunity that we'll talk about a little later on. Finally, we do offer some awards for once you've returned from your program. So I won't go into great detail about them today, but I just want to mention them, that if you are planning to conduct research while abroad or undertake an internship, then you should certainly consider saving materials and applying for either the internship awards or the undergraduate research awards when you return to campus. So these are really wonderful awards that you can apply for once you've come home. But the portfolios we'll be discussing today are for those that you will apply for before your program. Finally, we offer a graduate school scholarship. So This is not through us. This is through the Mulberry Institute, which is up north in California. And we'll just touch on that very briefly at the end of the presentation if you're considering going to graduate school. So let's move forward and talk about eligibility. So all UCEAP students are eligible to apply for our awards. So all students who are UC students going abroad. So if you are a full-time enrolled UC student and you plan to study abroad through UCEAP, then you qualify. We don't have any citizenship, residency, or other eligibility requirements. So I highly encourage everyone to apply. And if anyone in the chat wants to guess where these photographs were taken, I will give you a little thumbs up if you are correct. I love these pictures. They always make me smile. So let's move forward. Amsterdam. Good job, Carissa. Excellent. Good job. Okay, so let's talk about the global scholarship quickly. So our global scholarship is $1,000 for summer programs and $2,000 for quarter, semester, or year-long study. So if you're going abroad for the year, that will be $2,000 each semester if you are selected each semester. So you do need to apply independently. Also, if you are in attendance today, can you let me know in the chat if you are considering going abroad for a year? Because that will influence how much I talk about a year-long award and whether I do. So let me know if you are considering that path. So you must submit your applications by 11:59 p.m. on the deadline. We do not accept late applications, and I really recommend that you start your application well in advance in case you run into any technical issues. So it's always disappointing to tell a student that we can't accept their application after the deadline, but it is a firm policy. So do ensure you start it early. I'm sure those of you who are in attendance today have already begun your application, and if not, you are thinking about it. So definitely ensure you submit early. So the deadline for this term will be March 15th. So make sure that by the 14th, you have hit submit, you are comfortable with your application. You can continue to edit your application up until 11:59 p.m. on March 15th. So even after you hit submit and finalize, you can still continue to edit it. So I recommend throughout the process, just sending it in and you can continue to edit it. Okay, cool. We do have a year-long student in the audience, so I will address those a little bit. Someone's asking, for spring 2024, it's September 15th. That's correct. Yes. So for spring 2024, the deadline will be September 15th and the application will open on August 15th. So the global scholarship has a certain set of criteria. So it will be a form that you'll fill out, which includes kind of demographic information about you as a student, what program you're planning on attending, some of your academic history, and personal demographic information. And beyond that, you will be filling out a statement of purpose, which is 750 words. So this statement will ask you things like what sparked your interest in study abroad, how does your program relate to your academic and career goals, what are you most excited about for study abroad, things of that nature. If you haven't already looked through the statement of purpose, I really recommend you do so and start brainstorming ideas. The link to apply is just there below, uc-eap-ucop.academicworks.com. So you will need to create an independent account from the account that you use to apply to UCEAP in the first place. So some students get confused by this. They think that they can use the same account as they did to apply to programs generally, but do ensure that you are using an independent account. So you can create that with your UC email address or a personal email. If you are having trouble receiving a confirmation email, sometimes the UC addresses block the system and it becomes complicated to get your confirmation email. So you can start a new profile with your personal email if you're running into any trouble there. So let's keep going here. So this is what the form looks like when you log into the system. You'll see down here, this is an older screenshot. These are just the general information that they'll ask you on the form. And then over here on the left-hand side, as I mentioned, this is an older one, but there should be a UCEAP scholarship application 2023 to 2024 conditional page. You must fill this in order to be prompted with the correct scholarship. So if you are receiving a message saying that you are not currently qualified for your awards, you must fill in that page, and that will then prompt you to get the correct application. So if you're encountering any trouble, that is why. So it'll look just like this, but it'll say 2023 to 2024. So as I mentioned, once you've selected the correct terms, you will be prompted with an apply button on the right-hand side next to the correct term for you. So it should say, instead of spring 2022, it'll say fall 2023, and you'll know that's the correct one to apply to. And if you are applying for a year-long award, then it should come up with the year-long status as well. So you'll just see those recommended opportunities in your portfolio. And again, it'll prompt you at the second form here that will be specific to the global scholarship. So this is our statement of purpose. It is online, so I'm not going to read it out loud now, but if you want to take a moment to review it quickly, then you're more than welcome. And in the meantime, I'll just check our Q&A. Is it too late for summer 2023 scholarships? Unfortunately, it is. So the summer 2023 deadline was on February 15th. But I do recommend checking your campuses to see if they have any offerings for summer still. Yes, unfortunately, it did pass on February 15th. And will the slides be sent out after the webinar? They will not, but a recording will be. So you are welcome to watch the recording and just flip through it if you need to. And that should give you the information there. Okay. All righty. And no, it is not too late for fall semester. That will be due on the 15th of March. Okay, so let's address award selection quickly. So award selection will be primarily based on merit and integration of a selected UCEAP program into a student's academic and career goals as demonstrated in a personal statement. So that's a lot of words to basically say that your academic history and goals for your program are highly taken into account when we make our selection. So we want to ensure that you have prepared for your program and that you've picked a program that really aligns well with your future goals, and that you've explained why that is. So we'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a little while. But another component of our award selection is that we prioritize students with financial need or who are traditionally underrepresented in UCEAP programs. So we encourage you to include these some details about how you've been impacted by, for example, being an underrepresented student on your decision to study abroad. So this includes students who have transferred to a UC from a community college or a state university, veterans, first-generation college students, participants of year-long study because it is a more unique path, and students on programs where the majority of classes are taught in a language other than English. So if you're studying abroad and doing a language-based program, that can work in your favor when we make our selections. So not to say that if you don't have a strong academic record or if you aren't studying abroad in another language that you won't be selected. It's certainly not a factor that indicates you won't be, but you are at a slight advantage in terms of us selecting candidates if you do fall within those categories. So let's move forward here and begin with our application tips. So these are some recommendations to make sure that your application stands out. So the first of which is to make your statement memorable. So be specific about your background and your reasons for going abroad. So we have tried to edit the prompt to create a little more leeway for giving some personal information about yourself and putting your true voice within your application. So we wanted to feel like we can get to know you through this application. So reviewers can read upwards of, some reviewers read 20 applications each term. At some points in time, I've read up to 80. So it's really important to ensure that your personality comes through within this application and that it's memorable. So you can maybe tell a little story about yourself. Maybe you're able to share, a personal anecdote of why you've chosen the country that you chose. So I'll give you a little backstory about why I chose Scotland. So I was planning to study abroad in London, actually, when I was a student. And I heard that there were some programs in Scotland and I was curious about it, but I hadn't really given a lot of thought to it. And I was working at my part-time job at the time. And an older Scottish man came in and started talking to me. And he was very sassy to one of my coworkers and very friendly once we got to know him. And he just talked to me about Scotland for about 40 minutes. And by the end of the conversation, I was hooked on Scotland and I felt really at peace with that decision. And he told me that I would really love it there. So I had a kind of chance encounter that pushed me towards a totally different country. And I'm really grateful for it. So you might not have a story just like that, but perhaps there's a reason that you've chosen the program that you've chosen. And we'd love to hear about that. So we are looking for students who have chosen programs that match their academic and professional needs. So why have you chosen the university that you've chosen? So when I was a student, I was an English literature major. So choosing Scotland was important for me because I was able to take a lot of very unique literature courses while I was there. And the city itself is a very literary based city. So there's a lot of really amazing authors that have been part of the Edinburgh social scene. And they also offer a cultural festival every August. So those were elements that I could discuss within my application. But perhaps you have selected Mexico because you really want to practice your Spanish. You want to work on that and you want to work with a Spanish speaking population in your career. Explain to us, how you plan to study Spanish while abroad, what experience you have with that language thus far, and how it will help you within your career down the line. Or for example, let's say you are studying environmental science and it's really important to you to get near, coral reefs or down in Australia somehow to do some kind of environmental work. So whatever it may be that has pushed you to select your program, please explain that clearly to us so that we can make that link with ourselves. It might seem obvious to you, I want to become a doctor in a Spanish speaking area, so I've chosen to study abroad in Latin America, but we need to know explicitly why you've chosen that program. And finally, stay away from cliches about travel and other cultures. So it's really, really wonderful that going abroad will open up your horizons and allow you to travel. And we're really glad to hear that. But it doesn't necessarily make your application stand out to say that you think this will be a life-changing opportunity. So using kind of rote phrases like that don't necessarily stand out to our reviewers. And on that note, emphasizing time spent in your host country versus a chance to travel on the weekends to other countries. So this is a big tip that I have for study abroad generally, that I think that a lot of students choose to study abroad in the country they've selected for a reason. It's important to them. And then once they get abroad, sometimes they can get distracted and want to travel a lot and they see cheap flights to other countries and they really want to take advantage and travel while they're abroad. But one semester goes by so quickly. You'd be shocked to look up and realize that it's nearly over. So it's really important to ensure that you are spending time in your host country on the weekends. And so within your application, we want to hear about that, as opposed to, I selected Berlin because it's a wonderful central hub for cheap flights to Amsterdam, or, Madrid. That's not necessarily going to help and bolster your application. And then finally, again, if you're a member of an underrepresented group and study abroad, explain how that has impacted your decision to study abroad. So if you are selected for a UCEAP scholarship, you will have post-program requirements. So you will need to send a thank you to the donor of your award, as well as complete a 2-page report about your time abroad and send in photographs. And we use your lovely photographs in presentations like this. So if you do not want to share your images in any kind of promotional materials, that's fine. You just select to keep them private once you submit your materials. So I did mention we have named awards that are specific to certain donors, and here's just an overview of a few of them. So we've got the Jasmine Jahan Shahi Scholarship or the Bill and Olivia Alloway Award. So I do want to highlight the Bill and Olivia Alloway Award because it is for some universities in the UK. So if you're planning on studying abroad at the University of Kent, the University of East Anglia, and I believe Sussex is the third one, I really, really, really recommend that you submit an application. These are underserved universities in our, that is an error. It should not be that many zeros after that, but I will put a dot there. It is $2,500 per award. But if you are planning or interested in studying abroad at those universities, this is an opportunity that we don't receive a lot of applications for. So I would say your chances of getting the scholarship are relatively high. If you really, if funding is a very important aspect of your choice to study abroad, then I would look into those universities. You could even perhaps switch your program. But the University of Kent, the University of East Anglia, and the University of Sussex. So definitely look into them because we do have some funding for this award. We also offer our Guardian Scholarship. So this is for former foster youth, so former or current foster youth. So if you've ever been in the foster care system, this will be selected internally, but do note that within your application and explain to us maybe how that has impacted your decision to study abroad. And we do offer a few different global Guardian Scholarships each term. We also offer memorial scholarships based on region. So based on where you are in the world, you could receive a memorial scholarship if you're at the top of your class when applying. These are summer-specific scholarships, and as summer has already passed, I will just name them briefly: the Gallen Family Scholarship and the Mara Melandri Scholarship. So if you decide you love studying abroad and you want to go abroad again over the summer, keep this in mind if you're thinking about studying in Italy. So as I mentioned, the Founders Prize in Entrepreneurship is a spring award, but if you are thinking about studying abroad for a year or extending and you happen to be in London and you want to apply for the Business and Education program, the Business and Entrepreneurship program, pardon me, in London, do know that this award is available. And it's a $5,000 prize for students studying abroad on that particular program. So if you are considering going abroad for spring as well, keep this one in mind. And this is our newest award that we're very excited about. So this is our UCEAP Videography Scholarship in memory of Albert G. Manassian. So this is to support creative students with a passion for photography and videography. So it is a $2,000 prize awarded annually to students participating on UCEAP. And instead of submitting a report at the end of your time abroad, you'll submit a video to us, so as well as photographs from your time. And we will be definitely using these in our promotional materials. We're really excited to share your experience abroad with other students, and I'm just excited to see directly what you got to experience while away on UCEAP. So that's our newest award here. So we did have a few students who were year-long students in our audience, so I will mention these briefly. So we do have our Dutton-Haver Scholarship, which is $5,000 a year. So that we offer 30 awards each year, as well as our Chris Borton Memorial Scholarship, which is $8,000. We offer 8 of these awards. 4 of them are specific to UC San Diego, where Chris Borton attended as a student, and then 4 of them are spread throughout the system-wide offices, so to different campuses other than San Diego. And I mentioned earlier the Paul Dutton-Haver Extension Scholarship. So this is a $2,500 award for students who are extending from fall to spring. We offer 16 of these each term. So in terms of combining funding, so funding from the UCEAP Global Scholarship cannot be combined with funds from our named awards. So if you receive our Global Scholarship, you will not also receive our Olivia Chanship Award. We do try to spread our funding evenly across students. So if you do receive one award in the named award category, you will not be receiving an additional Global Scholarship. That being said, the exception to this is our Videography Scholarship. So that can be given in addition to our Global Scholarship. So you can receive both of those awards. Students who are going abroad for the year can receive either the Dutton-Haver Scholarship or the Chris Borton Memorial Scholarship, as well as a Global Scholarship or a named award. So if you're going abroad for a year, you can receive one named award, or sorry, one year-long award and one semester award per semester. So do apply for all of the awards that you can if you're going abroad for a year. Finally, you can combine the system-wide scholarships with campus-based funding or additional external organizations as well. And as I mentioned, if you're going abroad for the year, do apply for a Global Scholarship each term that you are abroad. That is important to do. So let's give a little bit more detail about the Dutton-Haver Scholarship. So let's talk about extension awards quickly, because I think that's more relevant to most of our audience here. And if you are curious about additional year-long awards, there is a year-long specific webinar on our YouTube account that you can access. So the Dutton-Haver Scholarships are donated to us by Linda Dutton-Haver, who's one of our longstanding and loyal alumni. She is an alumna of UCSB. She studied abroad at the University of Bordeaux in France in 1975. And she credits her year abroad with really forming her independence as a young woman, as a student, as a professional, and she wants to help facilitate that experience for others. So she's very passionate about year-long study, and she does have a preference for students with financial need and limited international experience. So if you haven't been abroad before, that's absolutely fine. You're super welcome to apply. But before she had studied abroad, she had not left the country, and I hadn't either. So she wants to prioritize students who are seeing the world for the first time. So our extension awards are wonderful to keep in mind. If you do really love your program, you can sign a form while still before you go to create an easier pathway for yourself to extend if you're considering that in any way. I would talk to your advisor about how to sign that form and what that entails. But you apply for the extension award in September prior to the actual extension process. So you do need to think about it quite early if you're planning to extend. So we also offer a Chris Borton Memorial Scholarship, again, a year-long award of $8,000 each. And it was established in memory of Chris Borton, who was a student at UC San Diego. And he spent the year at the University of Göttingen in Germany, which I've probably mispronounced, but he was a student. This memorial award was established in 1996, and it has a long-standing history of wonderful students who have accomplished so much post-program, and we're really excited to have this in our repertoire. So do apply if you're planning on going abroad for the year. And finally, our year-long scholarships do carry the same application deadline. So it's going to be March 15th for this cycle. And it will require an online form, a statement of purpose, and we recommend that you submit a letter of recommendation, but it's not required. So I definitely recommend you do so, but it's not required. So as with most of our applications, I would say a strong academic record matters, but it's not the most important part of your application. So if your GPA is below a 3.0, but you still feel like you're a good candidate for this, I do recommend you apply anyway. But what I also recommend is that you perhaps explain within your statement of purpose, or if you're going to apply for a Dutton-Haver within your statement of academic preparation, why it is that your GPA might be a bit lower. So personally, when I was going to study abroad, I had changed majors from chemistry to English literature. So I went into school thinking I wanted to be a pediatric dentist, and I was quickly disenchanted with that path and moved into a major that suited me much better. And so my GPA was pretty low when I applied to study abroad. It was like a 2.8. And that excluded me from certain programs, but I found a program that it suited, and I would have explained within my statement of purpose why it was that my GPA was a bit lower. So perhaps you've had a hard year personally with loss in your family, or there might be a myriad of reasons as to why it might be lower. Definitely explain why that is if that is the case. Also tell your personal story. So as I was mentioning, make sure your application is memorable. It's really, really important that it stands out amongst the crowd. And do explain to us if you are contributing to your own costs for study abroad in any way. So if you have a part-time job, even if it's just babysitting on the weekends, or working at your parents' pizza shop in the summers, it's really important to our donor Linda Dutton-Haver to see that you are also contributing to your own financial success abroad and helping to prepare for your program. So if that is the case, definitely mention it. As I mentioned, a letter of recommendation is recommended for this award. So if you are going to get a letter of recommendation, I recommend getting it from someone who knows you really well, as opposed to someone who has a lofty title. So you might want to ask the dean of the chemistry department, for example, because it sounds really great to have a fancy name at the bottom of your application. But we would recommend that you get it from someone who knows you really well. So it could be a TA, it could be a supervisor, it could be a peer who you work with on a volunteer committee. Someone that knows you well would be the best candidate to write your letter of recommendation for your term abroad. And talking to them about why you want to go abroad, what your goals are, is really important to make sure they can write the best letter for you possible. And then if you're planning to extend, you can ask your campus staff abroad or professors abroad to help you write that application as well. So for all of our applications, spelling, punctuation, grammar, and good writing are very, very important. So I always recommend getting a second or third set of eyes on your application, having someone you trust read through it and make sure there's no typos. Reading it out loud can be very helpful, but just ensuring that you've gone back through it, because it is so easy when you've written it yourself to not catch a typo, even if you read it 100 times over, because you know what you wanted to say. So I always recommend having someone else check it over. So I mentioned earlier some of our post-program awards. So we do offer undergraduate research awards. These are $1,000 stipends in each of 3 discipline areas, so the humanities, social sciences, and science and engineering. So former or current UCEAP students can apply for the undergraduate research awards by submitting the research that they conducted while abroad. So you want to make sure that you're documenting the research you're doing, taking photographs and remembering it, so that when you do return to campus, you can apply for this award. We also offer internship awards, which are a $500 stipend to students who submit an application and have distinguished themselves through internships. So again, take some photographs while you're at your internship, begin to document it, and when you return to campus, you will want to apply for that. And finally, our graduate school scholarship. So this is a $5,000 guaranteed scholarship towards a master's degree at the Middlebury Institute of International Studies at Monterey. So if you are thinking about graduate school and you are curious about living up in the Monterey area, any student through UCEAP will get this automated discount. So those are the general overview of our system-wide portfolio right there. So if you have any additional questions, you can contact me at that email or at scholarships@uceap.universityofcalifornia.edu. And let me go ahead and look at our questions now. So if you have any questions following this presentation, feel welcome to put them into the Q&A and I'll begin answering them. If you don't have any questions, I wish you the best of luck in starting your application and submitting it. And I thank you for attending today. And please feel welcome to follow up with me after the fact. Someone has asked when this is due, so I'll go ahead and pull back up our timeline here from earlier in the presentation. These are the timelines for all of our semesters, all of our terms on UCEAP. Next question is, so our general application and conditional application are a bit independent of your opportunity-specific application, so you will need to fill out a few different forms when you go through the application process. Is it too late to apply for fall scholarships? It is not. And is there any scholarship for former foster youth? Yes, it's called the Guardian Scholarship. And you don't apply directly to it, but you are selected internally. And I do recommend speaking in your application about the impact of being a former foster youth so that when we do assess your application, we typically pull about 6 or so students for the Guardian Scholarship, and we can only award 1 or 2 each term. So definitely speak to that, the impact of that within your statement. Someone asked how they get access to the slides. I won't be sharing out the slides, but I will be showing out a recording of the presentation. So a student has asked about getting a guaranteed acceptance letter. I would speak to your program advisor about that. I don't know the answer to when you'll receive that. It's a formal acceptance. So I would speak to your program advisor about that because each program is specific. Alvin asked about our post-program awards, how to apply for those and when. So if you go onto our website and look under our scholarships page, you'll be able to see the links to those awards. And there should be also contact information for the people who run those awards. So you want to go ahead and check back in when you're back home on campus about how you should go about applying for those. And are there any scholarships selected internally aside from the Guardian Scholarship? Yes. So all of our named awards, aside from our Videography Scholarship in memory of Albert G. Manassians, will be selected internally. So our year-long awards will not be. They are an independent application, but our named donor awards will be selected internally. So you just need to submit the global scholarship to qualify for them. Okay, for the fall scholarships, what should we do if we don't know if we've been nominated yet? So I still recommend that you apply for your scholarship. So even if you're not necessarily guaranteed a place on your program, still apply. And if you're ultimately not selected to go on UCEAP, you can just withdraw your application down the line. Or you can let us know that you switched programs if you were admitted into a second choice university, for example. Are scholarships on a first come, first served basis? They are not, no. So all students submit your application on the deadline. And what happens is we have a team of reviewers, up to 200 different reviewers each term, who will internally review your application and award it a score. So it'll be scored in 5 different categories, from academic and career goals to, subjective merit, things like that. And in those different categories, you'll receive a ranking, and then an average is taken of the score in the end. So we try to have at least 3 reviewers look at each of your applications, and then an average score is taken, and then we rank them, and the top students will be receiving a scholarship. How many scholarships will be awarded for fall 2023? That's a good question. We haven't yet worked out the exact quantity of scholarships we'll be able to award. Unfortunately, our funding is limited, so it might be around 100 or so, and we do have upwards of 800 applications for fall sometimes, so it is a very competitive process, which is why I recommend definitely getting peer advice on your application, having your parents review it or a trusted guardian. Getting as many eyes on it as possible before submitting it is really important. If I emphasize time spent, time to travel to other countries, wouldn't that also count as a cliche? Yeah, exactly. I would recommend talking about time spent in your own country. The host country that you're planning to study abroad in is definitely my recommendation for the applications. Do the named awards require an additional essay or other requirements? So only those that I discussed today will require additional requirements. So all the other named awards, again, are selected internally once you've applied for the global scholarship. A student asks, are we automatically put into consideration for every scholarship we are eligible for by submitting the application? Again, aside from those that I mentioned today, in terms of having a specific application, yes, you'll be automatically considered for those. Once you've done the global scholarship application. So you do need to do the global scholarship application to be considered for any award. Can you include multiple letters of recommendation? Just one is recommended. So I would just send in one. Make sure you pick the best professor you can or the best TA or whoever that may be. But I would just submit the one. Someone asks where they can find the scholarship essay. So it's just on the application portal itself. You'll see the prompt, and I can go ahead and turn to it quickly so that you can read it. Maybe it was back here. Yeah. If you want to read the statement of purpose in the meantime, you're very welcome to. So does the letter of recommendation for all applications adjust to Dutton-Haver? So just for the awards that I spoke about today, so it's going to be the Dutton-Haver, the Chris Borton Memorial Scholarship, and the Extension Award will require a letter, or will have a suggested letter of recommendation. Will the recording be posted? Yes, it will. I will send out a link to everyone who has registered for the recording for the webinar today. And then what percentage of students are awarded the global scholarship? It just depends on the amount of students we have that applied each term. It varies term to term, but it is competitive, as I mentioned. So do make sure you're putting in as much effort as you can to crafting the best application you can. Do we need to make a video to be considered for the Videography Scholarship? Yes. So we want to see that you have some experience with videography work. So if you create TikToks or blogs, or if you want to go make a video of just straight talking to the camera or whatever that may be, you do need to submit a video to be considered for that application or for that scholarship. Okay, will the awards be announced? Will the awardees be notified about fall? When will that be? So we will try to make notifications prior to the withdrawal deadline. So at the end, towards the end of April, you will be notified, and we try to definitely get that back to you before the withdrawal deadline. So sometime at the end of April. Will the slides be posted again? No, just the video. Okay, there is no letter of recommendation required for the global scholarship, and you will submit it at this link here. So you can type that into your browser, and that will be where you start the application. And let's move forward. Will the webinar, okay. Yep, the webinar will be sent to all registrants. You said earlier that we won't be given both a global scholarship and a named award if you get 2 named awards. So the only named awards that can be combined are the Videography Scholarship and an additional named award. So for example, the Theta Shapiro Award or the Jasmine Jahanshahi Scholarship. Those guys, they can be given together, but otherwise, no, they will be independent. And the intent behind that is just to spread funding as widely as we can across the student body. So, okay. Are there any specific awards for studying abroad in the Netherlands? At the moment, there are not. No, not yet. We don't have any donors that have given us Netherlands specific funding, but I hope that we can in the future. So if you end up loving your program and you decide to donate back to UCEAP down the line, maybe that can be your goal, is to create a Netherlands specific scholarship. So I've answered all the questions that are in our Q&A just now. So if you have any additional questions, you're more than welcome to post them there. I will stay on for another 5 to 10 minutes to ensure that I've gotten back to everyone. But if you have all your questions answered, then thank you so much for attending, and I wish you the best of luck with your application. Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming.